Hi there, boys and girls. I decided to read today's story out in my backyard. It's such a pretty day, and I don't know if you can hear, but there are lots of birds out here singing in my trees. And I also wanted to show you some of my flowers. We talked about the flowers popping up in the springtime, and I don't know if you can see them, but I have some purple flowers that bloom in my vinca vine this time of year, and there are a couple of tulips popping up, purple and red, and some yellow daffodils, and there's some other little flowers as you go on down the line. Now, I'm not sure if you can see all of those, but you might be able to see some flowers in your neighborhood too. Now, something we didn't talk about the flowers is something special that they need to help them grow each year. And I thought I would read a book that teaches us a little bit about that. This book is called Buzzy's Treasure, and it's by Misty Baker, and the pictures are by K.A. King. Now let's look at the cover and see what we can see. Lots of flowers on the front of the book. 2 little bumblebees. So what do you think that this book is going to be about? You think it'll be about bees? It might be. It's called Fuzzy Buzzy. That might be a good clue. Let's see. Buzzy flew where no bumblebee in her family had ever flown before. An undiscovered field of wildflowers stretched before her, lifting their pretty heads as she buzzed over them. They were heavy with nectar and pollen, and Fuzzy Buzzy was the first bee to find them since they had bloomed. They were very glad to see her. I wonder why they're glad. Let's keep reading. Flowers needed bees every spring to take their pollen from one bloom to another so more flowers could grow the next year. What a treasure, Fuzzy Buzzy said to herself as she tried to choose a flower. Blue, white, purple, or yellow. There are lots of flowers there for her to choose from. She finally chose a beautiful daisy with bright white petals and a sunny yellow center. Now, do you think that when bees get the nectar from the flowers that they use a straw? I don't think so either. I think that they have something special in their mouths that help them be able to get the nectar. But it's cute to think of her having a striped straw that she drinks out of. She drank all the nectar from the daisy and flew to the next flower and the next. In special baskets on her hind legs, she gathered pollen, leaving some on each flower that she visited. The flowers lifted their pretty heads to the sky to thank her for helping them, because gathering all of that from them helps them to keep growing. Now, do you think bees really have baskets like this that they carry on their legs? I don't think so either, but they do have special places on their legs where they gather the nectar. It just doesn't look like baskets like this. Finally, Fuzzy Buzzy had her fill of nectar and could drink no more. With her pollen baskets filled, she flew back to her nest. Along the way, Fuzzy Buzzy's tummy did something that all bees' tummies do. It turned the nectar into honey. Oh, we just had a bee visitor by us. She and her sister worker bees stored a little honey in the nest to feed themselves. They fed pollen to the baby bees called larvae and a queen bee so she could keep laying eggs. So her tummy made all of that nectar into honey, and she and her sisters eat some. They feed some to the little babies and some to the queen bee. As soon as Fuzzy Buzzy went inside the nest, her sisters buzzed excitedly around her. "Where did you get all that honey and pollen?" they asked. "Show us where we can find the flowers." So she brought back so much, and her sisters want to help too. They want to bring back that much. But this was the first time Fuzzy Buzzy had found flowers all by herself, and she didn't want to share her treasure. "No," she said, "I found them first. They are all mine." And look, That's not a very friendly face, is it? She doesn't want to share. The next day, she woke up extra early before any of her sisters had stirred. She didn't want them to follow her and find her field of wildflowers. The flowers she didn't visit the day before lifted their drooping heads, hoping that Fuzzy Buzzy had brought her family to help them. They were so heavy with nectar and pollen, it was hard to keep reaching for the sun. So you see how the flowers are starting to droop over? Because no bees had visited them. See, this one's drooping over. The ones that she couldn't visit yesterday because she can't do it by herself, they're not looking as healthy anymore. Fuzzy Buzzy visited as many flowers as she could and drank so much nectar that she could hardly fly back home. She finally reached the nest as the day turned into night. Once again, the other bees begged her to show them where to find the flowers. Fuzzy Buzzy, your tummy is so full of honey and your basket's so full of pollen. You can barely move. Look at Fuzzy Buzzy, she looks exhausted. Please tell us where to find the flowers so we can help you gather. No, Fuzzy Buzzy answered. The new flowers are mine. You can find your own this time. As soon as she fed the babies and stored some honey, she stretched her wings and gave a big yawn. She was so tired, she lay down right where she was and went to sleep. Look at those little babies. In a baby bottle. Do you think they use a baby bottle to feed the baby bees? I don't think so either. But I think it's cute that they made pictures of things that we use, that people use, even if bees don't really use them. The next morning, Fuzzy Buzzy woke even earlier, before the sun had brightened the sky. She flew as fast as she could to her field of wildflowers, but her wings were so tired she had to stop a few times along the way. Finally, she reached the field. All the flowers she had not visited yet couldn't even lift their heads to say hello. They drooped sadly towards the ground. They were sure the bees had forgotten all about them. Without more bees, there would be no more flowers next spring. Oh no, Fuzzy Buzzy said. The poor flowers. I have to get help. I can't tend to the field all by myself. So finally she realized the right thing to do was to let her sisters know so they could help all the flowers. Determined to save her treasure, Fuzzy Buzzy flew as fast as her tiny wings could buzz. She reached the nest before the others had left to find their own nectar. So her sisters are still there finishing up. It looks like a little tea. And this one's like reading. And she came in tired and a little embarrassed probably. I'm sorry, she said. You were right. The new flowers need help. And I've been very selfish to want to keep them to myself. Will you come and help me gather? Of course we will, the others answered. Show us where they are. Fuzzy Buzzy led the way. The flowers heard the loud buzzing and lifted their heads as best they could to welcome the workers. Help had come, and just in time. They were so happy their field would bloom again next spring. The bees landed on the flowers, drank their nectar, and carried pollen from bloom to bloom. They worked together until they had tended to every flower. Fuzzy Buzzy smiled when she saw the flowers reaching proudly towards the sun, and she promised to never keep such a treasure to herself again. So you can see, you have to look closely, but there's a little bee right here. There's a bee up here. Here's one here and one here. There's one here. They're all around. She brought all of her sisters, and together, look how pretty. All the flowers are looking up towards the sun again. Well, sometimes when I was a little girl, I was afraid when I saw a bee. They would scare me because of the buzz, and they can sting, and you don't want to bother them. But we have to remember, bees are our friends too. They help take care of our gardens, and they give us honey, and there are lots of good things that the bees can do too. So if you see a bee, leave it alone and know that it's doing its best to help our flowers, even our fruits and vegetables, keep growing and keep coming back year after year. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that you're getting to enjoy some time outside and maybe looking for some flowers along the way, listening for the birds while you're out there, and just enjoying some nice fresh air. You take care, and I'll be back on Friday. Bye-bye.